Hi guys, Jarrod here, and I recently did a video of my top 10 games of the generation. And it's funny because Ahmed from the site, he was saying how, wow, like he was surprised when I was talking about the Wii, and I actually got a few PMs from people who was like, oh, you didn't really play the Wii much or whatever. So I figured I would do a top 10, of my favorite Wii games of all time. Number 10 is a game that a lot of you probably have either on your top 5 or maybe even your top Wii game of all time, and that is Xenoblade Chronicles. My story with this is a little bit interesting in that when it came out, you know the whole story of how long it took to get here, how limited this run was, etc., etc., etc. But when this first came out, I actually played this when this was brand new, and I got into it for maybe 25, 30 hours, and then it slowly started to taper off for me because it really felt like an offline MMO where you have tons of just different NPCs you can interact with and whatnot. I really got into the story, and I did eventually finish it, and that's why it made it into my top 10. But it didn't grab hold of me like probably most of you guys. And I think that's why it moved down on my list. This was originally like somewhere around like number 4 or 5, believe it or not. But as I got further and further in the game, I don't know why, my interest just slowly gravitated away from it. But this is still a spectacular game with incredible production values. And if you like role-playing games as well, like a whole, forget about the whole JRPG and all that nonsense. If you like role-playing games, this is definitely one to check out. If not just for the fact that it's quite unique and it's quite different. And so that's what comes in at number 10. Number 9 is a game I was kind of surprised would end up in my number 9, and that is Kirbys Epic Yarn. This was really unique. It wasn't the most challenging game or anything like that, but this was really, really unique, featuring some really spectacular production values and just overall amazing gameplay. I had an absolute blast with this, and I love the fact that it was just so easy to control. And you'll see as we go on, very few of the games that I really, really love make tremendous use of the Wiimote. Again, that's because I wasn't just a huge fan of all the different motion controls. But this is a great game. If you like Kirby or you like action platformers or whatever, this is definitely one to check out. This, I was thrilled pretty much from the moment I played it all the way until I finished it. But this was another one, if I recall correctly, I didn't play. This was one I did not play, actually. I said again, but I played Xenoblade Chronicles when it came out. But this one I did not. This one I believe I went back to afterwards. I went through a period where I was like, you know what, I'm going to give the Wii a real chance. And I played a tremendous amount of Wii games back to back to back to back, and this was one that really stuck out. I had a really, really good time with it. It was really unique, and I'm hoping to see this sort of style come back on the Wii U. All right, number 8 is a game, well, it's a sequel to a game I loved on the Nintendo 64. On the N64, one of the best imports you could get was a game called Sin and Punishment. See where I'm going here? That's right. Sin and Punishment. What is it? Star Successor? I always call it, yeah, Star Successor. I always call it Sin and Punishment 2. Is my number 8 game. It is a phenomenal game. It sucked because we didn't get a real Star Fox game this generation, but this sort of filled the void nicely. It's basically a rails shooter. And if you've ever played Sin and Punishment, or if you haven't played Sin and Punishment, go on the Wii's Virtual Console, or if you have the Wii U, go on, the Wii app, and then go to the Virtual Console and check out Sin and Punishment. It's a really, really fun game by Treasure, and this follow-up is equally as impressive. I had a blast with this. As you can tell, I'm an old school gamer. I love the retro sort of scene, and this feels like a retro game. Love it. Go check it out. It's my number 8. My number 7 is a game I haven't finished. Blasphemy, I know. And it is Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. I've made it about 3/4 of the way through the game, and I loved every minute of it, but as always, If I don't finish a game quick enough, it's very hard for me to go back. There's almost always something that pops up. As you saw, you guys have been seeing all the videos I've been releasing, publishing lately. So you know just how many, different things that I try and cover all at one time, and it just ends up I cover nothing. But no, the next generation of video games is basically upon us now. So the same sort of thing happened with this. If I recall correctly, I was making my way through this around the time when the Wii U was released, and then I had all the Wii U launch coverage to handle and all things like that, so it got out of control. But anyways, I love the Fire Emblem series. This is one of the first series I ever imported. I've been very vocal about trying to get more and more and more people involved in the Fire Emblem series and just tactical RPGs or strategy RPGs, whatever you want to call them, as a whole. And I'm pretty sure I didn't finish this one. I'm about 99% sure. I'd have to check my save file, but I'm almost positive I didn't finish this one. Because I wanted to link in, like I was going to start a new game because I believe you can link in from the GameCube one and all this jazz. But anyways, I said screw it and I just started a new game and went through it like that. This is a really good game though. If you like strategy RPGs or tactical RPGs, this is definitely one to check out. It's Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. It's my number 7. Coming in at number 6 is a game I really enjoyed. It's part of one of the greatest franchises in history, and that is Super Mario Brothers. This is New Super Mario Brothers Wii. It comes in at number 6 because it's bloody awesome. I wasn't really into the fact you had to go like that with the controller in order to get Mario to do a little spin move. I would have much rather just been able to use the classic controller and map that to a button. But you know what? In the end of the day, does it really matter? Not really. This features some of the best platforming of the entire generation, and I highly recommend you go check it out. If this was my number 6, you can only imagine how crazy the games get as we go on. But you'll see, they're just amazing. Coming in at number 5 is one of my favorite series on the GameCube. What could that be? It is the Metroid Prime Trilogy. This is actually one of the rarest games on the Wii right now. And I think as years go on, it's going to get more and more and more hard to find. What I loved about this, well, I'm not a huge fan. We've been over this like 1,000 times. I wasn't a huge fan of pointing the Wiimote and stuff like that. But what I was a fan of was all the touch-ups and everything that were made. All the games look spectacular. They're all in 16:9, if I remember now. This was just an amazing collection. And if you've never played any of the Metroid Prime games, I highly recommend you go check it out. The first one, actually, you know what? Screw it. All 3 are absolutely awesome. It takes a little time to get used to the Wiimote if you're like me, if your brain can't handle that sort of stuff. But this is definitely one to check out. This is one of my favorite collections of all time. It comes highly, highly recommended, and that's my number 5. My number 4 is probably going to surprise you because I've already listed some incredible games. What the hell could possibly be better than all these? I think you're going to be surprised by all the other games I pick. The next one is basically, it was the biggest shock to me because I was a huge fan of the original on the NES, and then I just went crazy from there. And what am I talking about? Punch-Out! I love this game. I finished this game about 3 dozen times now. Every time I just want to go relax, whatever, I'll go ahead and I'll always come back to this game. And you can use the motion controls and stuff like that if you really want, but I don't. I play it just like the NES one, and because of that, I love it. I think this is a brilliant game. This is one of the best remakes or like, I don't know, whatever. Like any game that tries to like reboot the franchise or whatever, this is what you should follow. This was so well done. I can't tell you how much fun I had with this. And that tells you something, right? Like, we've gone through some pretty amazing games. We've gone through Xenoblade Chronicles, this really deep and immersive RPG. We've gone through other titles like Fire Emblem, like a really detailed tactical RPG. Then we've had Mario and you know, like just some of the best platforming you can have. And yet at the end of the day, this comes in at my number 4. This is just a simple arcade, well, one-on-one fighter, but not one-on-one against another player. And that tells you the type of gamer I am. This is an amazing game that I can't stress enough, and I really think everybody should play this. If you like Twitch gameplay, or you're an old school retro gamer, or you grew up in the arcades, this is one to check out. This is my number 4, Punch-Out! Well, we're coming near the end now. You should all know what my number 2 and number 1 are based on my top 10 games of the generation video. But what's my number 3? Well, my number 3 is a game I actually just went through a few months ago, and it is Super Mario Galaxy 2. I made a rule with myself for my top 10. I said, you know, I'm not going to pick, like, say, 2 games in the same series, because that's ridiculous. So instead, I mean, Super Mario Galaxy I really enjoyed. It didn't hit me as much as like Skyward Sword, okay? But this is a phenomenal game. This one, it was like leagues better than Super Mario Galaxy, even though I really enjoyed Super Mario Galaxy. And I was surprised that this made it all the way up to my number 3, only because I am such a retro gamer at heart that, you know, the whole 3D thing is fun. I enjoy 3D Marios, but nowhere near as much as 2D Marios. And yet, look at what just happened here. That tells you something. This is a quality product and one I highly recommend everyone check out if you enjoy platformers, especially with this. This is highly creative, some really unique power-ups, just an overall an amazing game, and I am super happy that I managed to find the time to go back to this one. And, you know, this was very close to making it onto my list of my top 10 games of the generation. Very close. That's how much fun this game really is. So my number 2 game shouldn't surprise you based on my other list. It is Donkey Kong Country Returns. Don't really have much to say that I didn't say before. This is just one of the absolute best games released in the last 15-20 years. It's an amazing game. It follows up the original Donkey Kong Country series perfectly, and I absolutely cannot wait for Tropical Freeze because it just looks like the perfect continuation of this. I was a sucker for Donkey Kong Country. I'm a sucker for 2D platformers and just retro games as a whole, and this just scratched that itch perfectly. One of my favorite video games of all time. Donkey Kong Country Returns, my number 2. And so we finally come to the end. My number 1 Wii game of all time is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. As I said in my top 10 video games of the generation, to me, this is the game that defines the Wii. Like, without this, you get a bunch of fun games. They definitely define the system. But this, in my opinion, is what proved that motion controls were more than just a quote-unquote gimmick or more than just, you know, a simple add-on. Like, the motion control fundamentally changed Zelda. And it proved that, yeah, you know, like, the Wiimote can be used for much more than most people thought. And it's sad because this will most likely be the one and only Zelda game ever made to utilize those controls. And that's really unfortunate because it's such an amazing and immersive experience. But yeah, if you have not played The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword and you own a Wii or a Wii U, do yourself a favor and go pick the game up. It's breathtaking. It's just absolutely incredible. So that is it. Those are my top 10 Wii games of all time, but I don't want to leave you off the hook just yet. I have a couple of other games that I wanted to just briefly acknowledge their existence because they're so good that they deserve to be mentioned. I was going to mention Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition, but again, I'm not a huge fan of the Wiimote in general, pointing and all that sort of stuff. Yes, it does make it more accurate, and you might love it, so power to you. But these are games, again, that scratch that sort of like retro itch that I have all the time. And some of them not even. Some of them are just, you know, unique titles. So I only have 4, so just bear with me. Okami, this is an amazing game. This was one of my favorite games on the PlayStation 2, but this version actually with the pointer made drawing a lot easier and just it was cleaned up really, really nice. This is a phenomenal game. This almost made my top 10 list, and really it could bump out a couple of these games every now and then just because this is such an enjoyable game. Next one is Klonoa. This is a remake of the original PlayStation game, and while it's not the hardest platformer out there, it's fun as hell. Again, cleaned up beautifully. It's a 2.5D action platformer, and if you enjoy those types of games, this is right up your alley. You can even use I'm just looking right here to remember, you can use the classic controller, which is perfect. For a guy like me, what more could you ask for? Next up, we've got Mad World from Sega. Love Sega, and I just loved this game. This is another one that easily could replace a couple of those games in my top 10. And what can I say about this? I mean, it's extremely brutal. Love the style, the whole black and white with only the blood being red and a few other things. This was highly creative, and really to me showed me why Sega is still really, they can pump out some amazing games. It's just unfortunate they haven't had as much success in recent years as I would have, loved them to have. So that's Mad World. So one more game I wanted to mention, and again, it's a Sega game. It is Knight's Journey of Dreams. That's it. If you're like me and you're a hardcore Sega Saturn fan, when this was announced, you were probably like, oh my god. And, yeah, it wasn't the greatest game of all time or anything like that, but this was really fun. And at the end of the day, that's why I play video games. I don't play them for these ridiculous immersive stories, wonderful graphics. Does that hurt? Not at all. Not at all. But at the end of the day, I play these games to have fun. And this game just was fun. And it was great to just see all these, these great games come to the Wii that didn't necessarily force motion controls and whatnot, although this does obviously have some. But it was just great to return to this world. So thanks for watching, everyone. That's pretty much my top 10 Wii games of all time. I'd love to hear what your top 10 Wii games of all time are. I guarantee you 99% of you are going to put Super Smash Bros. In there, but I've never been a big fan of that series. Not entirely sure why. But yeah, love to hear you guys leave a comment. Let me know what you think are your top 10 Wii games of all time. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll be back soon.